Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. I want to share with you, make some comments on the book of Genesis, chapter 11. We're going to talk about the Tower of Babel and the dispersion. I don't know, maybe you have heard the story of Babel and the confusion of languages, etc., etc. But if you haven't, please join me here today, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this history. We're gonna find out some interesting details and what is hiding inside that maybe you have overlooked. And if you haven't, anyway, join me today, and we're gonna study this again because there's a lot of interesting story, which is give us a lot of insight about the Bible. Chapter 11 in Genesis reads like this: The whole earth was of one language and of common purpose. And it came to pass when they migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar, and settled there. They say to one another, Come, let us make bricks and burn them in fire. And the bricks served them as stone, and bitumen served them as mortar. And they said, Come, let us build us a city, and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed across the whole earth. Let's stop right there for a moment. If we go back, let's find out what was the purpose of these people. What were they trying to do? What were they trying to obtain from this project? It says in chapter and the verse 1 of chapter 11 that the whole earth was of one language and of common purpose. We must remember that when it says the whole earth, we're talking about what was known as civilization of the time. Obviously, the whole earth wasn't filled of people, but this expression is making reference to what was known as the world of ancient days, where the majority of people were. And we're saying that the Bible is saying that they were of one language and common purpose. And it say that they moved to a land, a valley called land of Shinar, and settled there. So here's the thing: they say to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and brick them and burn them in fire." And verse number 4 said, and they say, Come, let us build us a city, and a tower to its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed across the whole earth. So we can see right here that the purpose that they were trying to pursue wasn't to glorify God or to give the glory to the creator of the world. They were trying, again, as they themselves recognized, they were trying to build a name for themselves. They were trying to build a city for themselves. They were trying to make a tower for themselves. And again, there's nothing wrong with building a city or a tower. That's not the purpose. Because they are saying, and come and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed across the whole earth. So, in other words, if you remember, God said to the man in the first chapters of Genesis, you should fill the earth and expand the paradise, all over the earth, etc., etc. These people are saying no. We shouldn't, expand. We should concentrate ourselves in just one place. We're gonna build a city. We're gonna make a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. They were attracting to themselves the glory that belongs to God. Because what they were trying to do is that they were trying to become powerful. They were trying to get recognition of their own works and bring the attention to themselves, bring the glory, the fame to themselves. But when you try to get other people's attention and to get them to recognize um, what you do, or in this case, make a name for yourselves, the commentators are saying that probably their intentions were maybe at some point kind of idolatry, because remember, this was not for the glory or glorification of God's name. They were trying to glorify their own names. How do you call the person that wants to glorify his own name and that other people recognize that? It's called idolatry at some point. So they were trying even to build this tower with its top in the heavens. So God say, okay, should multiply it and fill the earth. These people are saying, no, we should concentrate here. We're gonna build a tower with the top in the heavens. Some commentators even say that the one that was behind all these was a Nimrod, and this tower with the top in the heavens, according to the mind of these people, was that they were thinking, okay, we're gonna reach the heavens and we're gonna start a war against God. Because they were thinking maybe that the tower could reach where God is, and maybe start a war against God Himself. So that's why they say, let's make a city for us, let's make this tower for our glory, let's make us a name for ourselves. So it was kind of egoistic and kind of idolatry right here. So God really was not like, did not agree with them. But God is so fair that before going to trial, he need to check, there is the all the evidence. That's why verse number 5 says that God descended to look at the city and the tower which the sons of men built. So God came to confirm if everything was true. What was the purpose of these people? Are they trying to bring glory to me, to my name, their creator? No. That's why in verse 6 God said, behold, they are one people with one language for all, and this they begin to do. And so, in other words, you all speak the same language. You should glorify me because I'm your maker, your creator. And this is what you're doing. You're trying to bring the glory for yourself. You're trying to bring fame. This is idolatry. This is against my laws, against the idea that the creator should get the glory and attention. So God said, come, let us descend and there confuse their language, that they should not understand one another's language. When God says, come, let us descend there and confuse their language, to whom is he speaking? Well, some commentators say, like the famous Rashi, is saying that God is talking to the angels, to the other spiritual beings, and they're, discussing the matter and saying, okay, let's go and descend and let's confuse their language so they should not understand one another's language. And if you remember that verse number 4 says that these people were afraid that they get dispersed across the whole earth. Well, verse number 8 is showing us that their fear became truth, because God came and says that God dispersed them from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because it was there that God confused the language of the whole earth, and from there God scattered them over the face of the whole earth. So it's called Babel, which means confusion. And from Babel was this city, we got Babylon, because Babel is Babylon. Is later on became this famous city with the king Nebuchadnezzar, and etc., etc. So this was the beginning of this city. Some commentators and the Midrash and other stories tells us that Nimrod was the guy, the man behind all this project. They were trying to make this war against God, build this tower to the heavens, and maybe I don't know what kind of war it is against God, because I don't know, these people might be out of their minds trying to fight with the Creator and against spiritual beings. But so we can see what were their intentions: bringing glory, attention, idolatry. Again, God was not happy with this, so He came down. Of course, an expression is making reference that He disliked this, so He, in His angels dispersed these people, scattered them all over the surface of the earth, and finally they stopped building the city. That's why God asked or said, they are of one language, and this is what they begin to do. So he was very disappointed with them. As if you remember, before these, the flood uh, happened. I mean, like 300 years before, there was the flood where God destroyed all the wicked people. So now we see that instead of serving God, these people go again against the Creator. They didn't took a lesson maybe from what happened during the flood, and sadly they went against God. And if this guy Nimrod was the man behind this, the Bible says that Nimrod was like a powerful hunter before God. So this guy wasn't afraid of God at all. Instead of that, he was really promoting rebellion and against the God's purpose. So this is just some comments on the history or the story of the Tower of Babel. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that might disagree, have another point of view, but again, it's like a broader, points that we can share some more comments and thoughts. But some points, like a lot of people didn't know, maybe others knew it already. I hope that this was kind of interesting for you. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you next time.